Hey, good Monday morning, everybody. It's Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here. Getting a little excitement here this week for the possibility of maybe some snow for parts of the area east of the mountains on Friday with a very favorable storm track, but not the greatest cold air setup. And I'll explain more as we get in through the video here. So today we've got mostly sunny skies. Now tonight we're actually going to see a fast moving, what we call a short wave, kind of like an Alberta Clipper is going to move through the mountains. So there could be a burst of snow late tonight and early on Tuesday, especially in the higher elevations, some rain in the valleys, and even some showers east of the mountains. This is going to move through pretty quickly and be gone by about, I'd say, late afternoon. But a nice little northwest flow snow event for the North Carolina mountains. So good news for skiers and snow lovers. In the mountains, you're going to get another blast of snow. But we go through the middle of the week. High pressure kind of moves in. We'll go through Tuesday and Wednesday. We'll get into about Thursday. So we start getting into about Thursday. The 7th here. And this is when we start to see a storm system, really fast moving system coming down in some northwest flow. Now it dives down to the southeast and it starts moving into areas of Tennessee. Now, right away, there's a lot of moisture associated with the southern part of this, but not a lot of cold air. The cold air is all the way up here in eastern Canada. So this is when we talk about a favorable storm track, but not a favorable position for the cold air. So normally when I would see this low pressure system, if the high was down in here, I would be much more excited for some decent snow chances. As it is, there's probably going to still be some snow, mainly because of the system bringing its old cold air. And what I'm talking about is there's an upper level low and a pocket of cold air in the mid levels that'll be coming in with this system. So if we can get a band of heavy precipitation on the northwest side of this low, we can actually get the system to bring cold air down from the upper levels closer to the surface. This is what we call an upper level low or dynamic cooling that produces this. Now, the good news with this setup is you're never really worried about sleet or ice. It's either going to be rain or snow. There's really no in between. It's either going to be that rain or snow because it's going to be so warm in the lower levels, but colder aloft. So watch as this thing unfolds going into early on Friday. So you see the coastal low. This is the coastal low forming here, but there's an upper low right here, which is kind of hard to tell on the surface chart. But if I actually pull up the 850 temperatures here real quickly, you could see this pocket of cold air back to the northwest. We'll talk more about that in a minute, but let's go through our early morning hours on Friday. So we're waking up 7 a.m. Friday morning, low pressure here. There's going to be a band of very heavy precipitation right in here, and this is where we could get that dynamic cooling. We call this a deformation zone. These are incredibly difficult to pinpoint their location. I know there's going to be one on Friday, but the question is how far south is it? Is it down to Charlotte? Is it Interstate 40, or is it hug the mountains and foothills? One thing is for sure, the mountains and eastern facing slopes, and I'm talking upper Burke, Caldwell, maybe even Alexander, parts of Catawba, up into Wilkes County, could get some pretty good snow out of this setup because of the low along the coast. You could see through time, we'll go through the morning hours on Friday, you could see that rain-snow mix kind of moving out pretty quickly and then gone. So it's a very fast-moving system. It's just not the perfect setup because the cold air is all the way up here in Canada. That's why it's not super exciting as far as a sure home run hit. But I will say, somebody in here, especially right in here, probably has a pretty good potential to see a nice burst of very heavy snow on Friday morning. So let's talk more about the potential here. So you can see those probabilities of seeing a quarter inch of snow, quarter inch of liquid, which would be 2.5 inches of snow. We got a 10% chance in most of the foothills early Friday, but Friday afternoon into Saturday, you notice most of this north of Charlotte, but that Interstate 40 corridor, kind of the hot spot. And one of the things I like to look at is something we call the National Weather Service blend of models. This is basically taking all the model guidance and kind of blending it. So this is an actual forecast from all the models blended together, not necessarily the actual forecast right now, but kind of gives you an idea. If I were to take all of the main models and kind of blend them together, this is kind of the orientation of the snow. Now again, I wouldn't read too much into the totals, but you can see the mountains get clobbered, and then from Hickory to about Greensboro up into Danville, that's kind of the area we're watching potentially for some snow. Now, could it make it down to Charlotte? Certainly. I think around the Hickory area, you're looking at maybe a trace to an inch, but areas like Boone and up here in the mountains and foothills, we're looking at some substantial potential for some good snow, especially around those higher elevations of 3,500 feet, but around Greensboro as well, maybe an inch, inch and a half. So certainly something to keep an eye on. And when I look at the ensembles, the GFS only has a couple members. The European is much more gung-ho on this. You can see the number of members that have snow. And again, this is actually for Charlotte, shows an average or a mean of about 1 to 2 inches. So the Euro is a little bit more heavily influenced on this than the GFS, but the fact that we're seeing all of these members starting to hint at something on Friday is certainly something I would keep a close eye on. Now let's go back here, and I want to show you what I talked about earlier, these deformation zones. I'm going to look at the 500 millibar relative vorticity, we call it here. I'm going to back this up here. Let me look at 700 first. We'll back this up. So one of the things we'll be watching on Friday is where do we have the most lift? And when we get the most lift, that creates the heaviest precipitation. So we're seeing some hints it could be as far south as the Charlotte area, but I'm not totally sold it's going to be all the way down to the Charlotte area. If you look at some of the parameters here, the coldest air, which is the darkest blue, kind of lines up right in here. So we're looking at potential, the 0 degree line being right there. That's that light blue to dark blue line. But if you look up in here, you're seeing the highest potential for the coldest air overlapping the heaviest precipitation if I go back and forth. So that's why you're kind of seeing that rain snow line north of Charlotte. Now, things that could bring in the cold air farther south, there's really not a lot of cold air up. If the low tracks further south, it would drag this deformation zone further south. But what tends to happen in these systems as we get closer in time, the system tends to push that band a little bit back to the northwest. So unless this thing digs down deeper, which we'll see if it does, I don't see this bringing a ton of heavy snow to the Charlotte area right now. Could we see flakes? Certainly, yes. I think a better bet is going to be the mountains and foothills, and probably Hickory to Statesville to Greensboro seeing the best chance. It's a fast mover too, so it's going to be in and out fairly quickly. And I think when I look at the blend of guidance here, this really has a pretty good handle on where I think we'll see that snow line. Probably Interstate 40 again, and then up here into Southwest Virginia. So it's certainly something to get excited for. I talked last night about the system next week. Still somewhat excited for that system. It's still a long ways out. If you look at the ensembles, there's another hint here early next week, the Monday, Tuesday time frame, and then long range, another one. So the pattern is definitely changing to better conditions, really, for the possibility of wintry weather. Of course, I will post updates throughout the week, but if you live north of Interstate 40, keep an eye on Friday morning. We might get that quick burst of heavy snow.